A lot of businesses hire a CRO agency and see absolutely no results. Not because CRO doesn't work, but because the timing is not right, or the unit economics are not ready, there's no product market fit. There are a million reasons why not to hire a CRO agency. But this video is all about trying to figure out if you are ready hiring a CRO agency or if it's better to wait. Now, I have to be honest, I got skin in the game. I run a successful CRO agency, so I have seen when these projects go right, but also when it's better to hold off. If you want to figure out if you should hire an agency, then let's dive in. Now let's start with the basics. CRO stands for conversion rate optimization, and everybody always talks about the conversion rate. This is the pain point, but it's definitely not the thing that we try to improve, because the conversion rate is a dynamic metric that's influenced by the traffic acquisition, by the performance of your store, by the product you offer, or the industry you're in, and the number changes all the time. And whether it goes down or up doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. But CRO is basically figuring out why people who do land on your site, why they don't convert to a purchase. And you try to solve that systematically by running A/B tests and incremental growth to improve the store's performance. Now, as I mentioned, the conversion rate could go down, and it could be a good sign, because if you bring in more traffic, the conversion rate naturally goes down, but your overall profit could go up. So the conversion rate is just a metric that's often used, but generally you're just competing against the control, the current version of the site, and you continuously beat that version and therefore add more revenue to your business. Let's talk about why CRO would not work for you. The first one is if you don't have enough sessions on your store. In CRO, you run A/B tests, and the data helps you confirm if your new version beats the old version. And it can only do that if you have enough sessions or conversions, whether it's our purchases or leads or whatever you optimize for. But the tools often tell you reach statistical significance. This is where the data is at least 95% sure that one of the versions is better than the other. Now, you can reach this if you have a lot of data, and the data will then tell you, hey, you got a winner. You can also have less data, but then the difference between the performance of the new and the old version must be really big. Then you don't need that much data. But generally, if you have less than 10,000 users on your store or only just a few purchases a month, you just don't have enough data. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot optimize your store, right? But then it's not a statistical game. You can still create a new page, improve the images and everything, and you should, but just implement it based on best practices and the learnings from your business. But once you've reached a scale with enough data, then you can actually run continuous A/B tests and figure out incremental growth in your business. Now, the second situation. If your product market fit isn't there, CRO won't save you. CRO isn't a way to optimize your performance. It's not a way to create a funnel. So if you're a smaller business, the first thing you should focus on is making sure you figure out the offer that's right for your audience. And this doesn't mean you change layout of the site, but just by changing the copy, you're able to entice the user to continue in the funnel and get to a conversion. But if your product isn't right, if your price is way off, then customers are not even considering your offer. And then it's becoming very difficult for CRO to actually save your business. Now, the third situation, when the economics aren't right. If you have a business with about $20,000 in revenue per month, it becomes very hard to be able to afford a CRO agency. It needs a very big lift to be able to make it profitable for you. So we as an agency offer an ROI guarantee. So we will always make sure that our clients earn more from this collaboration than that we would ever charge. And that's a win-win situation. But we could only guarantee that if we're able to make a big enough uplift on your store. If you're running a smaller store, it becomes very hard to generate $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in additional revenue every single month. Conversion rate optimization compounds. So by having a higher conversion rate, you generate more cash flow that you can invest in the ads, and the ads will generate more traffic that converts higher, which leaves even more cash. So that's a vicious loop that keeps going round and round. But if you're a smaller store, you're probably better off spending the money you would have spent on a CRO agency on your ads to generate that additional cash flow and get to a bigger level to be able to afford a very good CRO agency. Now let's run a quick ROI calculation so you can plug in your numbers and see if it will be worth it for you to hire a CRO agency. Now take your monthly revenue and then take your current conversion rate. You can just find this on Shopify Analytics or GA4. Now ask, what is a 0.5% absolute lift in conversion rate worth to me? If you're doing $200,000 per month at a 1.5% conversion rate, moving that to 2% is a 33% increase in revenue. In this case, that is $66,000 every single month in additional revenue. Compared to a $4,000 retainer, that pays back in the first month. And that is when CRO is a no-brainer. Run your own numbers before you talk to an agency. Now, so what does a CRO agency actually do? When we start working with a new client, the first thing we always do an audit. We look at the website, we look at the industry and try to figure out what is actually wrong and what are opportunities we can take advantage of. Second, we analyze. We use heat maps, Google Analytics, BigQuery, databases, whatever it takes to get a good qualitative assessment of the funnel and the performance of each of the products and pages. Now third, we have tons of findings. Now we need to prioritize. So here we make sure we tackle the tests first that is the easiest to implement and most likely to give good results. So we're not changing the color of a button. Very easy, very quick, but it's not going to do anything. But we also don't build a completely new site. It will take ages, very hard to do, and we could have ran other tests in the meantime that already do generate revenue. So we prioritize what is most important to do first. And then we actually start designing, developing, and testing. And that is a vicious circle that is basically the loop of CRO. You test, you see the results, you learn, you iterate, and half of the tests you run are winners. And then you have incremental growth that helps you scale your business. And the tests that are not winners, you learn what customers are not receptive to on your store and you move on. Now, when evaluating a conversion rate agency, there are certainly a few red flags you need to look out for. The first one is guaranteeing a certain conversion rate. As an agency, or even you as a business owner, you can't guarantee a certain conversion rate. As I mentioned earlier, when the conversion rate goes up, you start spending more on ads and then the conversion rate goes down, but your profit went up. So that's all a good sign. So a conversion rate is not a static number. What you can guarantee is winning tests and the amount of revenue that has been generated from these winning tests. Now, the next one would be to not focus on the key drivers of the conversion, which is often the product page, the cart page, and the checkout page, not the home page or the collection page. And the list goes on of red flags. You kind of have an idea what you need to look out for. But now, there are also green flags. You want an agency that's data-driven, that doesn't guess or just apply what worked on other stores. You want an agency that's able to go into your business and understand the psychology of your customers and understand the current performance of your site. Identify where things go wrong and then come up with creative designs that match your brand, and that can be implemented in a very well developed way. So you can safely test and figure out if that improves the performance of your store. So, is a CRO agency worth it? As I mentioned earlier, if you have enough sessions and transactions on your store, it actually always makes sense to hire a CRO agency. Even if your conversion rate is already 8%, a very high number, which often means you can spend more on ads, drive the conversion rate down, grow the business, and then try to grow it back up again. So as long as you run the math, if you calculate 0.5% improvement in my conversion rate will generate X amount of dollars. If your conversion rate agency is cheaper, then it's a no-brainer. And even if you don't want to take the risk, you can work with agencies like us that offer an ROI guarantee. We take on the risk, not you, and we can guarantee you we will make you more money than we would ever charge. Now, I hope this was very helpful. If you want to see more information about conversion rate optimization work that we've delivered, definitely check out the link down below, and I'll see you in the next one.